Dun, 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 dun,
and that's about all we can do.
Legally, and because we're not very good at this kind of stuff. Welcome to another installment of Rocktober with Geek to My Nerd. I'm Joe.
I'm Ashley.
And we are here to talk about Rocky 2, the rematch of the, 11
century.
months.
11 months.
Right. So, how's it going with you, Ashley?
I'm doing pretty good.
You ready for this rematch, this 15-round rematch?
Yes.
Go toe-to-toe with the champ again and go the distance?
Yes, I think I'm ready. Yeah,
All right.
I watched it twice, so...
We did. All right.
I guess before we start, we should probably see who's with us.
Oh yeah, that would be the polite thing to do. I'm not very good at this. I'm just saying.
You're gonna start doing your Stallone Rocky impressions?
No, I'm not gonna do that. So in the chat,
they're really good.
We have Cal the Kingslayer with us. Of course, he is one of our moderators, and he's always up to share and pop into the chat. I know it's gonna be he's got to get to bed fairly soon, but we do appreciate you stopping in, man. Every time, even if you're just stopping in to say hi, we appreciate it. Janine just popped in as well.
Awesome.
TJ just popped in. We also have Sam, Sister Mary Elephant, Billy Polihan, Tom Zambino, my sister Leah is here. We got a lot of people here to watch this rematch. It's a rematch of the century, man.
I don't know if Rocky Balboa would know the word century.
It's probably true.
As he said, he has a relaxed brain.
He's got a relaxed brain.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Oh, Rocky.
Oh, he's precious.
Love you, bro.
All right, shall we get to this?
Let's get to Rocky 2 as part of Rocktober.
All right. So episode 2, like we have done in the past, we're going to do an overview of the facts about the movie when it came out and such, accolades and awards, our gripes, our likes, what we felt were the most important scenes, and then what we felt the themes driving the movie were. All right. So round 1.
Ding, ding.
All right. So Rocky 2 was released June 15th, 1979. So 3 years after the initial debut, directed and written by Sylvester Stallone. So we have a little change in director. 7 times its original budget at $7 million. So pretty good for the late 1970s. Its opening weekend was $6.4 million. So made almost its whole budget back that opening weekend.
Yep.
Placed number 1. And its worldwide box office total is in the $200 million range. So this one was also a pretty successful movie numbers-wise. Critic-wise, not so much, which makes sense when it's, it's a rematch. There's a lot of elements that are the same.
Or feel at least incredibly similar. Even if it's not 100%, But we're going to get to that in round 2, awards and accolades. Ding!
All right, so this really didn't get any kind of Oscar buzz, which makes sense because except for the slow motion camera work in the fight, there wasn't really a lot of new innovations with this movie. It's, pretty much a rehash of the same movie before, and we're about to have a cat fight in here. That's always great.
As per the usual.
It did win American Movie Awards Best Film, which that's not like a super prestigious awards giver. That's a term.
Yeah.
And then People's Choice Award for Favorite Motion Picture. So it was a liked film, beloved by fans, but definitely not one that was a real critical darling as its predecessor was, which, had so many, Oscar nominations and wins and is on all of the AFI lists. This was the 3rd highest grossing movie of 1979. I don't remember what the other 2 movies were that beat it out.
Considering there weren't any movies that year that started in Star or ended in Wars.
That's true. And then on Friday Night with Jonathan Ross, Sylvester Stallone was asked to rate each of the Rocky movies, and he personally gave Rocky 2 a 7.5 out of 10.
That feels apt.
Yeah, not too bad.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with gripes, and then once we're done with gripes, we can go back and talk for a minute. But,
Yeah.
Ding, ding.
So those little overviews and, things, those were quick little rounds.
Yeah.
Got some good punches in.
Now it's time for the meat of the fight. We go for the ribs.
All right, so the first gripe was we spent so much time recapping the most important parts of the fight from the first movie. This is literally footage from the 1976 original movie about halfway through the fight all the way to the end, including when he sees Adrian and gets to be with her. So I just felt like, okay, how long is it going to take?
Like, it makes sense, and we get it in retrospect why this is okay to do and why this is important, et cetera, et cetera. But
I felt that they could have maybe tightened it up a little bit, because you have to remember in 1979, like the home video market was
non-existent.
Probably non-existent. Like maybe they had like beta.
I don't know.
I don't remember exactly because it was before we were born, but like who knows like how long Rocky would have been in like second and like third string kind of the theatrical markets this late in the game. So definitely having to remind people like, hey, this is how the last movie ended. Because there wouldn't be a lot of, there was no Netflix, cable television, all of those outlets for movies where we can really catch up with things and don't have to have such a strong reminder. That didn't exist in this time period, but still I felt like they could have tightened this up a bit. They spent almost like 6 minutes showing us things that we already knew, and maybe it feels like a huge gripe to us because we literally just watched the previous movie last weekend, so it was fresh on our mind. And for the 1979 audience, this wouldn't have been fresh on their mind necessarily, but it did, feel like a little long.
Yep. Janine asks, when the first time we hear Eye of the Tiger, Tom says it was number 3, so yeah, nice. I thought it was number 3. Yeah. Anywho, moving on to the next break.
All right, and so part of the issue that I also had with this movie is like, not that Rocky's like a bad person because now he has all this like sudden windfall of money, but like when he was doing all these like big spending moments, it kind of lost like a little of his like good-natured character. Well,
and he was still good-natured about what he did, but like it's the fact that he immediately has money, so he immediately spends all of it. And it's fine. It's understandable.
That's a normal thing that people would do.
This is not so much a gripe that like, oh, this doesn't make sense, things like that. It's just you stare at it and go like, come on, man, you know what's going to happen.
It makes total sense, especially if I'm, kind of looking at his living situation where he's on his own. He's in his 30s. Like, I don't know if it ever talks about like his parents in the franchise, but like clearly they're not really in the picture. And so he's kind of growing up like a working class and maybe like kind of sliding down the scale of poverty. Like, it makes sense. Like, if you get that windfall, like, you spend because it's not going to be...
You don't know when you're ever going to have it again, and you want to get the things you never had. It makes sense completely.
But it's just kind of, like, it felt weird to see his character doing this.
Considering the character he was in the first one. Cal brings up, look at Mike Tyson. And yes, or MC Hammer.
Oh, there's so many examples of this. Anybody who's ever won the lottery, dozens of people fit this profile.
Systematically speaking, people that win the lottery are incredibly unhappy.
Yes, and so this was like the little scene where he's at the pet shop.
He's buying Butkus a new collar, and then buys another dog collar for his wrist. So they can be pals. Yeah, I mean, it's all sweet. It's
very
great,
sweet, but it's just, I don't know. I'm just kind of frustrated at these moments because I guess the forward-thinking person, I know what's going to happen. Like, we've all seen this story. You spend too much, then you have nothing. And
then you got to do something.
Yeah. And then this one, I don't mind that there's a baby, but you do not. I don't know what the rules in the 70s were, but like now, like you should never put like a baby like in blankets and anything because that's how like bad things can happen with like sudden infant. SIDS. Yeah, SIDS and all of that. So it's like, no, don't put a baby down like that. Like, what are you doing, 70s?
Billy, also, for the last thing we were talking about, Nicolas Cage comes to mind, and that is 100% apt.
But yeah, I'm not mad that there was a baby in the movie, but it's like, no, don't put him down with blankies. No, that's not good for him.
So.
And then these dudes.
So I would say the white dude in the glasses, but they're both
they look
old
the
white
same.
dudes in glasses. The guy with the smaller glasses at one point says something along the lines
Like,
of, I've never seen so many Italians.
Well, it started with Rocky's people have really come out to support him.
Yep.
And then the other guy is like, yeah, like I've never seen so many. And I don't remember, does he say Italians or Italians? Because that often gets mispronounced.
It doesn't matter.
Either
really.
way, what he said was horrible.
But the silver lining to this scene is the other guy, the guy with the lighter hair, just turns and was like, I'm not saying that. That was all you, buddy.
Yeah, so just the fact that, like, again, I know it was a different time. Obviously, these guys are from another generation, but like, I am Italian.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wow, like, I forgot that.
Having shades of family
history. Like, I forgot that we weren't always considered, like, with everybody else. We were our separate thing, and yeah, like, it's kind of like almost like you might as well have said that it was crawling with them, like, super offensive.
Yep.
Makes sense for, like, how old they are, but...
Cassell, they were not, and that's 100%.
Yeah, it's just, that makes me sad.
It was a chuckle though, because it's just like the other guy's response made me chuckle.
Yeah,
like, I didn't say that. That's all you, buddy.
But I know Stallone wrote the script, so obviously he's probably experienced some Italian American discrimination
when he grew up. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like it just frustrated me. It's like, man, really? Ugh.
Okay, so this was one of my issues, and for as amazing and gloriously shot as the fight is, one will argue that I will argue the fight in Rocky 1 was a lot better, because the fight in Rocky 2 and some of the later rounds, they just reuse footage from the earlier rounds shot from a different angle. Like, there's a scene, and I think it's the scene you have right here, where Rocky goes to punch him, and Apollo literally just like whips around behind him. They show that like 2 more times in the fight from different angles. Yeah, trying to show us it's later in the fight, because just, I don't know, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot too with the recycling shots, and yeah,
it's fine. I understand. I think we joked about it when we watched it the first time about the whole John Wick situation where they started reusing their fight scene extras. They just like shaved their heads or had wigs or whatever. Trying to save money. And I think that's the last of the gripes. Yeah. All right. So before we get to round 4, let's check back in with the chat.
All right.
Cal caused shenanigans on your blanket comment because Moses was wrapped in a blanket. He became the Prince of Egypt.
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
He had divine intervention.
Modern science says do not wrap babies in blankets.
Also.
And don't put bumpers in their cribs.
How well did that turn out for everyone? Like, it turned out okay, honestly. I mean,
let's not go there.
Except for, like, the people that died.
Let's not go there.
Let's see. The punches are really fake, says Billy, and that's true. I kind of felt like that in the first one, too. Like, the straight jabs to the head. Rocky threw his head back way too quick.
Yeah.
And there didn't look like a lot of contact. However, I think with one of our likes, I don't know if you put it down as a like, but we talked about it, that when there was heavy contact and you could tell there was contact, the sound effects were visceral.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if you had that on the slide. Billy says, baby, still cute, baby. Very much so.
Super cute, baby. We'll get to some other stuff with that later.
Yup. All right. Ding, ding.
All right. Likes. There's a lot that we liked about this movie, which I was pleasantly surprised, because I think, like, there's some comments other people had made earlier. It's like, I don't know if y'all like this one, so I was kind of expecting not to like it.
Well, and there's also sequel expectation.
Yeah, so we see a lot of the actually same actors, which I thought was really awesome, because sometimes when you make a sequel, people are not available or they don't want to do it. So obviously, like, Adrian was back, Gazzo, the brother Paulie, Mickey, and then even the pets. I mean, maybe it's different turtles, but they remembered there were turtles.
That he had 2 turtles.
Yes.
Link and Cuff.
Yeah, so I thought that was like a good through line of and a good sign that people had confidence in this movie, that they were able to get back pretty much everybody from the first movie. I don't remember seeing anybody that was different. Obviously, we don't have Creed and his crew here.
Real quick, Tom says for our gripes, reminding him why he can't remember much from this movie other than the ending, and he didn't like it that much. Yep. Yeah.
Another thing that I really liked, you could tell that they did use like their 7 times multiplied budget very well to fill in these crowds and make all the, like, they could afford to have more background extras to make this really feel like it was a special event. But other than that, like, it still felt like it was in the same movie universe. It still felt like dirty and gritty, like the mid 1970s,
Yep.
which it's supposed to be. Even though it was shot in '79, it's really.
I think it was actually. I don't remember the date on the flyers. I think there was a date though.
Anywho. But yeah, it's like the same year as the other movie. And then I love Apollo at the hospital. Like, we're not gonna have a rematch. We're not gonna have a rematch. I'll fight you here right now. It's like, dude, no, we have broken ribs. He has a broken nose, and his wife in the little furs and his little crew. And it's like, no.
Night Cal, thank you for joining us, good sir.
So yeah, I love this little moment where he was like, he literally was going to get out of his wheelchair.
He even tried to get out, and they held him back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty great.
Yeah, because like, there's not going to be a rematch. It's not going to be a rematch. I'll fight you anywhere, anytime. Like, no, honey, no.
This whole scene was like precious, like just incredibly precious. Where he's just like, hey, you know what about the next 40 or 50 years?
What you doing?
Well, what are you doing for the next 40 or 50 years?
That was just so adorable, like, because he's just not a smart man.
And we talked about this when we were watching the movie. Rocky is what you would like to call, he's very street smart and wise.
Mm-hmm.
I think he even said he doesn't know words so good or something at one point. I think he said that in the first one.
Yeah.
And you can tell in this one they kind of play that up where like people use words and he's like,
I don't know what that means.
Or he conflates it to a different word, like basically compares it to a different word.
Yeah, but this was such a sweet moment. What are you doing for the next 40 or 50 years? I'm trying to ask you to marry me. And he invites the tiger.
He does invite the tiger
to the wedding. And this is cute because it's a little callback to the first movie where the other guy who was being rude, Gazzo's little man, right-hand man, was like, why don't you take her to the zoo? People like her like the zoo, and saying something derogatory about Adrian, but it was just such a precious little moment.
Yep. I also like that a tiger is the animal at the zoo that they're near, and what's on the back of his jacket?
When he gets it later, it's a tiger. And then I just love that they have this little small ceremony, and it's in Italian.
Yep.
And it's like I get the feeling that like maybe he kind of knows a little Italian. But not like a whole lot, because he does have another conversation with him later where the priest is speaking in Italian and Rocky is talking in English. So I thought that was a nice little touch. And he says like, now like I pronounce you like esposo and esposa, which is man and wife, and then he has to tell them in English, you may kiss the bride.
Yep.
And it's real precious. And then speaking of, I don't know words so good.
At one point, Gazzo's like, you want to invest your money in condominiums? He's like, I never use them.
Yeah, and I have the pictures backwards. That's a PowerPoint's fault. But yeah, condominiums, I never use them. Yeah, I think this is like the origins of this joke.
Yeah.
Because that's a common joke.
I love the trainer guy, because he's
always been the voice of reason in this part of the plot.
He's way smarter than Apollo, and Apollo should have listened to him from the outset, because in the first one he's the guy that's like, hey Apollo, do you see this guy like training on this basically raw meat?
Like he's serious,
like he's breaking this cow ribs and all that crap, and he just never listens to Apollo. At one point he's telling Apollo in the fight in the first one that like this guy doesn't know it's a show. Like he's treating this like a real fight, and that's about the time Apollo starts actually paying attention, just like he should have at this point.
Yeah, where it's like, this is where they're discussing how to try to goad Rocky into the rematch, because Rocky is basically retired.
Yeah,
he is he has a problem where if he starts fighting again, his retina's already detached and he could lose his vision. Yep. So there's a medical reason why he should not fight. And it's like, you're going to look like the bad guy if you do these things.
Yep.
And Apollo doesn't care, because his pride is on the line because everyone's being mean to him.
Yep. I love this whole situation too. Like Apollo is taking this press conference incredibly seriously, and he's like threatening Rocky, and Rocky's just joking the whole time.
You're like, yeah, what are you gonna do with your share of the money, Rocky? Like, oh, I'm gonna pay the rent and maybe get a few hats and maybe get a motorcycle, get some Muppets. What are their names?
Do you have anything derogatory to say about the champ? Well, he's the best.
He's the best, yeah, because he doesn't know what derogatory means.
Right.
So then that really comes off as a huge burn.
And, dude, I think at the end, Apollo just flips out and is like, what is this, a circus to you guys?
Yeah, like, he's real offended, but, like, Rocky's just...
He's being Rocky.
Yeah, he's just being a casual guy with his relaxed brain.
Yeah, as he likes to call it.
This was great.
Chasing the chicken. It is the, what is it? It's the dodgeball scene that they use in the movie Dodgeball. If you can dodge it, if you can catch a chicken, you can beat the champ. And in Dodgeball, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of like
crazy
thing. I would imagine Dodgeball is like a lovely homage to these kinds of sports movies. So, but yeah, this whole situation, it's hilarious because he can't catch the chicken at first, and they use it for the same thing later. Yeah. But he catches the chicken, he's like, yeah.
It's part of his training montage, but it's just so ridiculous. And then it made us think of like every video game where you have to do some kind of quest like this and catch something that's fast.
Yep.
So annoying, like the rabbit.
For those that have played it, the current Spider-Man game on PS4, there's a collection of subquests where you have to catch pigeons flying around downtown New York, and it's infuriating. It's incredibly infuriating. I mean, you can do it. It's not difficult. It's just annoying. Anywho.
And then I just love that Rocky, like, his heart is not in this. Like, this whole, even after he agrees to do the rematch, because Adrian is really on the fence with it, and he's not really taking his training seriously. So I like that he had these moments where he wasn't all in 100%. I thought that was very realistic.
It feels like he's literally doing this because he feels he has to. Not because he really wants to, and he's passionate about it, but he feels like it's a job. So.
And of course, Mick naturally gets frustrated because this guy's at the twilight of his career. So, like, he doesn't have time to waste on somebody who doesn't want this for real. And I also love the differences between, like, how, like, Rocky's training is portrayed versus how Apollo's training is portrayed, as it really has very few people. But then, like, you have, like, this recording of all these people cheering him on, and it's kind of egotistical.
Yeah.
Like,
kind of.
Yeah, like super egotistical. Whereas, like, when we do see, like, Rocky in his montage, eventually when he is all in, he literally has people cheering for him, where it's artificial with Apollo. So I like the dichotomy of the trainings.
Well, Apollo can't train with anyone else, while Rocky trains among the people.
And then just kind of showing off that, Rocky is still, like, a great guy. This is before... like, they move into their new neighborhood, but he hasn't accepted the challenge yet. And he's just playing stickball with little neighborhood kids. And I think this is after he found out he was going to be a dad. So, he's just being a good guy.
Billy brings up that Apollo is very much Muhammad Ali with a show and ego. And I get that. I'm so pretty.
And I love the moments where Rocky is, like, trying to do the right thing and, like, be the provider for the family. He tries to get an office job, but Rocky can't because he doesn't have a high school diploma.
He dropped out of school in the 9th grade. Is the point there? Like, how far did you make it in school? 9th.
Yeah.
So, which honestly also wasn't super
uncommon for the 1970s.
For people his age in the 1970s.
Yeah, my dad's only completed through the 9th grade. He dropped out in 10th grade. So yeah. So yeah, it's pretty common. And then trying to, be nice to his wife while she's in a coma. She had gotten hurt at work because she was overexerting herself. We see her lifting these heavy things, and that's an instant clue that this is bad, because when you're pregnant, you're not supposed to do any kind of heavy lifting.
And basically what happens, of course, for those that have seen the movie, they know, but she goes into labor, has the baby prematurely, but she also loses a lot of blood. So the baby's fine, but he goes and slips into a coma because of the blood loss. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it is Rocky literally just, like, stops training whenever it's happening. He's reading to her. He writes poems for her.
Yeah, I think I have that too. Yeah, he wrote like her little poem, and Mick is, before like Mick was yelling at him all the time because Rocky and Adrian were having problems, but now he's like 100% understands that Rocky has to stay by her side. He's with her like the entire time she's in the hospital when he's allowed to be, because there was, of course,
70s.
Yeah, patience hours, whereas now they probably would not make you leave, especially if you're you're in a precarious position like she was. He doesn't even go like meet their baby because he's like, we're gonna meet him together. And so it was very sweet to see somebody just like drop everything and like, I'm going to be with this person, because especially in the 1970s and, into the 80s, it was still that idea of like, here's this manly man and he's going to do manly things.
And it's indicative of a movie like this. You would expect him to be like, okay, well, I'm going to win it for her and that's going to wake her up. And like, that's the trope and that's the theme. Which it's nice that this one didn't really.
Yes, that's a very good point. It didn't go there.
Billy said the first time he saw this, he thought Adrian was going to die. I'm not going to lie, having knowledge of the later movies, I didn't think she was going to, but it wouldn't have surprised me if this was my first time seeing it.
And then when they do get to see their little baby for the first time, he's just so precious. And this is actually Sylvester Stallone's real child. I think his name is Sergio. I'll have to go look it up again, but that's his real infant son. And you can tell that it is a real infant, and that is a lot of hair.
That's a lot of hair.
That is very typical for an Italian baby to have a lot of hair.
Yep.
Because, again, I'm Italian.
Probably find some baby pictures of you somewhere and put them online.
I don't know if I had that much hair. I'm only a quarter Italian, but like other cousins and stuff that my cousins that are like Italian and Hispanic, they have this hair because that's another thing in the culture.
Yep.
In those Mediterranean areas and whatnot. And then just him taking care of the baby, like that's just really cool, because even in the late 70s and the 80s, like
you don't really see that.
Yeah, you don't see dads taking care of the baby, and here he is with the bottle, and he's got just a little dribble of milk. And again, it's just that hair is so precious. He's a precious little baby.
And I mean, I know I love this. The
800 school children extras.
Right. So they basically recreate the scene from the first one.
Yes.
When he's doing the end of his training. They add a few extra scenes like him at the train yard and that kind of stuff, which is iconic of a muscle person training at a train yard, because if you think of the first Incredibles, when Mr. Incredible's trying to get into shape, he hauls trains for lack of a better word, training.
But yeah, like the whole city's behind him, and these 800 children that ran with him up to steps. Yep. Nobody looked winded. It's like, man, these children are in shape.
Right. Yeah. So it was really good, and the shots were, I think, a lot better. But of course, they didn't have to guerrilla shoot this.
Yeah, they probably actually got permits to shoot this time with that many children, and
it creates like this. It creates like this feeling of like heroism. Like it really does put up Rocky as like the everyman hero. And I think that's of course, I think supposed to be the ideal of the series. And he is not perfect, but he is at the end of the day, the kind of hero we need, where he is like wholesome, simple-hearted. He just cares about people and his family and his friends. And he just wants to do right and that kind of stuff. Billy says the ending of this movie is a recreation of the first one with an alternate ending. I can see that.
And then I liked the fight in this one. I felt that the sound design was really good, where like every time like a punch hits, whether it's like a real contact or even like the ones that y'all said looked a little fake, I felt everything. Like this fight had me on the edge of my seat. I was nervous. I didn't know who was, like, I thought Rocky was gonna win because I thought I heard that before, but like I had my doubts, like he could lose and like what's gonna happen. So I really like the fight choreography.
Yep.
Even with the reusing certain elements.
Yep.
And then they did a lot of cool stuff with the slow-mo and also the camera. Like when Rocky gets hit in the eye, like we can see in the corners of the shot, like it's the vision is blurring and only the center is in focus. So that was really cool with the camera work. I liked that. And of course, Rocky is fighting with his right side instead of his left in this movie as a way to try to trick Apollo.
I think he switches too, back and forth. As part of the thing.
Yeah, I think at the end he told them to switch, but then he wasn't going to.
Yeah.
All right.
Ding ding. We're on to round 5. Important scenes.
Shall we check in with the chat?
Billy said in the scene where he's like running up the stairs, the concentrated sweat that pools on his chest in the tank, or not the tank, the sweatshirt that he's wearing. How like he doesn't look sweaty anywhere else, but there's just like this big circle of sweat right here.
That one spot,
and it is pretty great. I also love that Mick kind of insults Rocky's training clothes, but because they're all torn up and bad looking, and they smell. But there is lucky clothes. He wants to wear on the train because they're lucky.
Was that like a combo of Rocky and Ivan Drago? Because it sounded a little Russian.
Racist. No.
What?
A few other things here and there, but nothing major. But yeah. What the joke? Talk about Tomb Raider games, catching chicken, apparently. So that kind of junk. Moving on to round 5. Ding ding.
All right, so these are the ones we felt were the most important to the narrative.
Yep.
So I felt this early scene where Rocky goes to visit Apollo through the door and asks him, were you giving it your all? I thought that was important to kind of establish that Rocky doesn't really have a need to do a rematch because he stood toe-to-toe with the champ fighting at his best versus somebody that was using kid gloves.
I think that's all Rocky really wanted, because he did want to make sure that like he didn't care that he lost to it, technically lost.
Yeah.
Like, lost a technical fight or whatever. That it was called for the champ. He just cared that the fight was legitimate. Was a legitimate fight. Tom Zambino calls it Rocky 2, a movie.
And then the champ is getting a lot of hate mail because people think the fight was rigged.
It's early Twitter.
So yeah.
1970s Twitter.
People are like calling, like making fun of his kids at school, and there's like death threats. So this really spurs him to want the rematch and to kind of assuage his own pride and shut up the haters. And his wife is like, "You're dumb. This is dumb. Don't do this." And he doesn't care. Listen. He doesn't care because he doesn't listen to anybody.
Because he's a champion.
I felt this scene between Gazzo and Rocky was important, where Rocky's kind of at a low point because like he's working at the gym.
Not only is he working at the gym, he's working at the gym
as like a grunt.
He cleans out the spit buckets, and that is just gross.
And he's running out of money, and he's like, "Well, you're Italian, which is code for you can join the mafia with me, because clearly this guy is a mobster."
Gazzo, who we originally thought was just a loan shark, and no, he's a loan shark for the mob.
Yeah, so he's got connections, and Rocky doesn't want his enforcer job back or anything like that. In fact, he got Paulie that job, so I guess Paulie's pretty good at that. With his little snow cones.
Billy says, "Remember when people actually wrote and mailed letters?" I remember. Yeah, right.
So I thought it was important that Rocky's like, "I'm good. I don't need that job. Like, I'll just keep working these menial."
I like it. It smells here, but I like it.
Yeah. So that was an important move for his character, not to fall back on those bad, things.
It shows that like he may be at a low point, but he hasn't fallen there yet.
Yeah, which I doubt his wife would approve of being in the mob.
Yeah, well.
A highly important scene where Rocky is left the bedside of his wife, and Mick comes to visit him and basically tells him like how it is with the whole the fighting situation, and like basically saying like, you haven't been giving this your all. You can do better. Like, we don't have a lot of time. Like, if you're gonna do this, you have to give it your all. And be like, I understand that you can't right now, but eventually you're gonna have to
be by your side the whole time.
Yeah, like, I'm here for you no matter what you want to do, basically.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a very important moment.
Billy says Mick's the best. I tend to agree. Like, of the external influencers, the two primary male external influencers that Rocky has, which is him and Mick and Paulie, I find Mick to be the less troublesome.
Yeah.
Because Paulie kind of seems to be the root of at least a third of Rocky's problems.
Yeah, like he even like wants to at one point like I'll go talk to Adrian for you. It's like what are you gonna do?
Like the last time
you're gonna like beat her up? Like that's not cool. She's pregnant.
So
yeah, I'll take care of her. Oh no, I don't like the. Yeah, I didn't like the sound of that.
Yeah, no.
And then when she does wake up,
one of my favorites.
And, yeah, after she gets all prettied up to meet her baby, and he like Rocky's like, I don't have to fight anymore, and she's like, I want you to do one thing for me. I want you to win.
Yeah,
and that gives him the boost he needs to take it to the limit.
Push it to the limit. Limit. Past the round 6 themes to slide. Let's move. Ding ding. Sorry.
Do we need to check in with the chat first?
Not a lot has been added. You know, Rocky 2, a movie, has been mentioned. Billy says montage. Yeah. Montage is like right after that whole situation, the big training montage.
Yep. All right. So major themes of Rocky. One of them is the fact that
Rocky gets fame and power and wealth and fame, prospects.
Yeah, and fame and power is temporary. So we see him like buying all of these expensive things in a car.
Yeah,
these clothes.
You can always tell which purchases are not exactly the best ideas because Adrian kind of is like, "Are you sure about this?" Case in point, the house and the car.
Yeah,
those are the two that she's like, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure this isn't too much?" Like she only a little bit kind of argues with the watch, but like with everything, like the house and the car, she's like, I don't know about this, Rock. Rock, you should listen to Adrian.
Yeah, and so fame and fortune can change a person, and make them do things they normally wouldn't. And then we see like he gets all these offers for these commercials, and so he's supposed to be in this aftershave commercial, but of course he can't read real well.
Yeah.
So he does not do well, and then finally he gets frustrated enough to leave the set, and it's like a huge fight between like him and the director, and it's like it's understandable because often these athletes are not good actors, and so it's kind of painful to see them in these kind of commercials where it's like, hello, my name is Rocky Balboa.
I love that Rocky calls the director out for being such a jerk.
Yeah, he's like, you're being
I'm trying my best and you're just being a dick.
Yeah, like you're being rude. Like, yeah, I know I have a relaxed brain, but like I'm a person. And
and I love that, like, you can tell, like, also because Adrian's on set and he's like, and I mean, it's rude to say stuff like that. Am I right, Adrian? She's like, just like staring daggers at the director. And she's like,
yep.
Thus, it's a slight code that even if they have disagreements every so often, they're still in each other's corner.
And then when finally we kind of see the fame and fortune doesn't last forever, he has to sell his car to Polly because he can't afford the payments on it anymore. He obviously didn't buy it just outright. He was leasing it. I know their house is also a loan. He didn't just like pay for it all at once.
Yep. And even in the 70s, that $37,000 wouldn't have
gone a lot.
Huge way. It would have gone a lot longer than it would have today.
Yeah. And then we see in the paper the goading of Rocky, as he's called this, versus the stallion chicken. And
which is funny, like symbol usage, considering part of Rocky's training regimen is catching a chicken.
Yeah. And so this kind of leads to people to start making fun of him at the gym. People are disrespectful to him, and then out in public as well, like when he's walking around with Adrian at the end of the workday. And so, like, fame and fortune, they don't last forever. And this is very symbolic to what was going on in Stallone's life at the time, where he had, had all this huge success with Rocky, all these accolades, awards, and then he did 2 other movies and they bombed. And so people didn't see him the same way. So now he's got to get back in the game and do the same thing he's been doing. So it's kind of like a weird parallel.
Yep.
And then another major theme is obviously, like, you have to work really hard for the things that you want. And so we see them, like, they're both down for the count, literally, and, like, fighting to stand up and to win. Because if Rocky can't stand up, it's all is lost. If they both stand up, then I think it'll still go to Apollo because he's already won so many of the main rounds anyway. So just like them, and Apollo didn't even have to fight Rocky as hard as he did in the round. Like, he kind of got too cocky. It's like, if you just stay away from him, like, you'll win.
Yeah.
But Rocky got that final blow on him, and they both tumbled down. But Rocky's the only one that's able to get back up at the last seconds of the count and win the world championship title. So, yeah, if you really want something, you have to work hard for it.
Yep.
It won't just be handed to you.
Very much
And
so.
he had the ref with blood all over him. That is so gross.
Yep. You can see the guy, the ref back there behind Rocky. He's got blood stains on his shirt. You ain't really not dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and brings that part up. Yep.
Yeah, his little speech is really sweet too, where he's like, "Other than the night my son was born, this is the best night of my life."
Yep.
And so I'm interested to see how things play out in the next movie, because he is now the heavyweight champion of the world. And what's going to happen?
He's the new Apollo.
Yeah, what's going to happen between now and the next one, which is in the 1980s. So I don't know what year, but I'm curious to see how it goes. But I really liked this movie a lot. I thought it was pretty on par, enjoyment-wise, with the first one. What about you, Joe?
I also really enjoyed it. I would say, like, if the first Rocky's here, like, Rocky 2 is, like, right about here for me. And it's mostly because it is a rehashed formula.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the whole movie, it's like watching Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. They're kind of the same thing, but there's enough difference that you can be like, okay, they're kind of different. There's movies that do this all the time where it's basically the same formula as the first movie, but just a smidge different.
Just enough different, yeah.
There's some talk about Billy says to listen to your significant other people, and then Billy and Tom apparently commiserate over not finding people, or not having someone yet. And you know what, guys? If Rocky and Adrian can find each other in their 30s, you guys got plenty of time.
Yeah,
you'll find people.
I don't know how old y'all both are, but yeah, you'll find someone. There's someone for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. You find someone.
Yeah, not everybody can find them like at 8 years old.
Yeah, we were like Rocky in the first match, incredibly lucky.
Yes.
Tom says that Rocky 2 is the same as first. It's just way worse. I'm not going to say way worse. It very much, like, Rocky 2 is indicative of Rocky 2. And the way I mean is, like, if you look at Rocky 2, he has money and he spends it and things don't go well. And then, like, he still comes around and wins at the end. But it's like, it's kind of rougher. And that's really indicative of everything that happens in the movie of Rocky 2. So, like, Stallone had more money. The movie looked better, but it wasn't actually better. And there were bits and pieces that just weren't as good as it used to be. And that's kind of the creation of Rocky 2 and Rocky 2 itself. It's still fine. It's just not as good as it was.
Yeah.
Part of it is Rocky is a humble character. He is a character that prefers the simpler life. He likes playing stickball with the kids in the neighborhood, and he likes spending time with his wife
and his dog and his turtles
and his fish that's probably dead by now because goldfish have an incredibly
short lifespan. Where was Moby?
Yeah.
Oh, no. And obviously, like, he loves his son a whole lot. Like, they're so excited. This is a little weird 70s comments they make about Adrian. You did it. I didn't know you had it in you. Like, it takes 2 people to make the baby. Anyway.
Billy says it's better than Rocky 5. That's probably true. I've heard Rocky 5 is just terrible. I've heard it's kind of like Hellraiser, where the first 4 are pretty decent, and then from there it's like a bunch of, like, dips and valleys and peaks.
Well, since there's only 2 after 4.
Hey, if you consider Creed and Creed 2, we don't
know those.
I've heard Creed is really good.
Yeah.
And hopefully Creed 2 is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen it yet. It's not out yet.
Yeah, we're literally taking it 1 week at a time with these, and we're not trying to get ahead. So, yeah, I know the next one is the Clubber Lang Mr. T one.
Mr. T. About the time that these movies, I think, fell into the 80s rut of being 80s movies, and almost like they were almost gimmicky. Because, you know, though Rocky 3 may not be as bad, I don't know. It's hard to tell. But they got Mr. T, and Mr. T is, well, he's Mr. T. You don't get him because he's a very serious and, you know, coordinated and talented actor. You get him because he's scared to jump out of airplanes, and you have to drug his milk.
Is that a Robot Chicken reference?
That is technically an A-Team reference and a Robot Chicken reference.
Does it wear all his gold chains in the movie?
I don't know. I haven't seen Rocky 3.
I just know that Mr. T's in it. I don't know if Apollo Creed's in it. I hope he is.
I think he is, because I think the whole idea is Rocky and Apollo form a friendship. And because of that friendship, that's why. I mean, I know some things about Rocky 4. You should know things about Rocky 4 as well.
Yeah, I've seen I Love the 80s.
Okay. And that's why Creed has such an impact on the Rocky universe, because I think at the end of the day, they both went the distance and they kind of formed this respectful friendship thing. But we'll find out. Yeah.
Another thing I was thinking about as far as like the differences between the characters of Creed and Rocky, like, since Creed is such a beast in the ring where he's like knocked out every opponent in like the third round or less, obviously doesn't have as much brain damage as Rocky, so that's why he's probably a little more eloquent and like a better public speaker and can,
he probably was to begin with.
Yeah, but you can get knocked in the head and that will go away.
Yeah.
You can have some traumatic brain injuries that impedes your speech. So
Rocky had been doing like prize fighting, so to speak, cheap prize fighting.
Yeah, like for
in,
$60
like, dirt holes with like free doctors that'll come in after the fight that you're basically paying $4 for.
Yeah.
That are just like, no, you look fine.
You look fine, go.
But he was fighting people like Spider Rico. I mean, Spider Rico's a bum. Nick knows.
They're all the bums.
Janine says 3 is the corniest and thus the most amazing montage. Tiger shorts running on the beach. I'm now very excited.
I'm excited. I want to see that. And especially if this one has the eye of the tiger. Like, I've been waiting for that to, like, because that's the theme of Rocky. I understand. Like, the other theme is like, oh, yeah, whatever. But Eye of the Tiger, we play that at school all the time.
Well, I think that's a song. That's one thing you can say about the entirety of the Rocky series is it's a series that almost like the music from it outlives the movies. Like, I've never seen Rocky 3, but I know Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
This is our first time seeing the Rocky movies, and we know the Rocky theme. I mentioned last week in our first one that they used the first Rocky theme in an episode of Bob's Burgers. So, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Rocky memes everywhere.
I wonder if his brother ever gets like a bigger part and gets to sing a song.
Hey, we get more Frank Stallone in this movie.
Yeah, because
he has lines.
He didn't have a band, so.
Right, yeah.
Come a break. Anyway.
But yeah, that's been our coverage of Rocky 2. Overall, pretty good. Not as good as the first.
Yeah, definitely not as good, but like I didn't hate it, and I was kind of worried that I wouldn't like it. I'm getting nervous every time we're watching a new one because it's like, am I gonna not like this?
I would compare this to Ninja Turtles. No, I wouldn't, because I kind of like Ninja Turtles 2 more than the first Ninja Turtles. Yeah. But I recognize the first Ninja Turtles is a better movie.
Yeah, far superior. But yeah, Ninja Turtles 2, even though it has the same kind of, we got to reintroduce the turtles to this new person, and so there's a lot of elements that are the same. It's still fun, so yeah, I wouldn't say that's not too bad of a comparison.
Yeah,
it's the Ninja Turtles 2 of the Rocky franchise.
Yeah,
it's the same plot. So because it's a rematch between the villain, and now he's like super strong. Yeah,
let's hope that Rocky 3
is not like Ninja Turtles 3.
Yes, let's hope.
Yeah, hopefully no one falls off a cliff and it just like disappear from the frame. Yeah, that'd be bad.
Billy says he's got the soundtrack downloaded. And Tom says he listens to part of the Rocky 4 soundtrack very often. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Survivor is key to the Rocky franchise. I would imagine. I think Survivor does Rocky 4's montage music as well. So,
anyway.
We'll find out. We'll find out next week when we cover Rocky 3 as we go another 15 rounds with Clubber Lang. Maybe. I don't know how many rounds.
I don't know how many there are, but we want to know from you what your prediction is. Do you think that we'll like Rocky 3?
Or do you think it's going to be a total KO? And you think it's going to knock us out and we just won't be able to get back?
We'll just cancel the series.
We're going to lose vision in our right eye and all that stuff.
Cancel the rest of Rocktober? No, because of Rocky 4. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking so full. I'm a Dolph Lundgren fan.
Yes. So yeah, let us know what your prediction is, if you'll like it or hate it. And tell us what you think of it. What do you think of this one? You know, just leave comments. Comments are fun.
It's fun. It's fun. And that's it for us for now. You can find me on Twitter where I'm at the Spice Must Joe.
And I'm at that _ Mrs. Davis.
And collectively, we have a Twitter account, Geek to my Nerd with underscores between each one. Of course, you're watching us here, where my prediction, pain. That's it.
Okay.
I'd imagine you're being the chief from Brooklyn Nine-Nine now. Andre Bauer's character. Anywho, I got off topic. ADHD, cats, it's me, squirrel. But we'll be back next week.
Yeah.
And on that, do we have anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Night, guys.